Good morning, Crystal Palace. Welcome to the Upper Norwood Library Hub Live Lunch. This is something positive, something that will hopefully keep you connected to the local community, maybe let you find out things about things you didn't already know about. So our guest this morning is Dylan Hervé Edelman, also known as Dylan Doodleman, who is a local artist and someone you might recognise from the Haynes Lane Market, where he runs a stall and framing service. So Dylan, thanks for joining us. It's great to have you.
Pleasure. It's despite the circumstances, it's quite nice to be able to communicate with people.
Absolutely, extra nice. I have to start by asking you about the fish.
Okay.
Tell us about the fish.
The fish has a local story as well. The fish was given to us by our good friend who sadly passed away recently, called Ramesh, who used to run a clothing store called Grand Bay, where the Roasted Bean Cafe now stands. And it was at the time when he was closing his store, and it was in the basement, and he'd always wished to kind of display it, and I think never gotten around to it. So we've given it pride of place in our flat, which we now call Casa del Riba, which is a mix of languages, the house of the fish. So
yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for finding an artistic backdrop. That's brilliant. Tell us a bit about the Haynes Lane Market connection.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Haynes Lane Market it's predominantly a food and fresh veg and local produce market. And a friend of mine called Cosmo, who many of you might know as well, he's a local guy, set up a little electricity fixing workshop in a kind of disused annex kind of piece of the market. And although it wasn't part of the market, when we opened both doors, it made a kind of a walkthrough. So I decided to move my I had a kind of a mobile art gallery, as it were, called Images Del Mar, and I would go to various markets around London, display comic artwork and limited edition prints and things like that. And I got slightly fed up of moving and setting up every time, and so I thought it would be great to have a permanent base. So I opened up there with him, and it kind of grew a little bit and started offering a framing service, which is still continuing. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to basically display artwork, and it's almost like a collection, like in a library you'd have books, but here it's a collection of images and pictures, and a lot of it is kind of very kind of British comic artwork from the 1960s and 70s. You don't see the stuff so often, so it's quite nice to be able to display it. And it's nice that now Cosmo's kind of moved on and still doing things in the area, but Rebecca has taken on the other side of the shop with Roots and Cycles, and is offering kind of eco refills and as well locally made kind of skincare produce and a plethora of amazing good products to have in the home.
It's an interesting combination of shops to have in the same shed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bonkers. It doesn't necessarily work sometimes, and other times it works really well. So I mean, people I think can be quite shocked by the fact that my half of the shop is quite heavy on plastic, because I am kind of using mylar sleeves and things like this, which are conservation grade and help protect the artwork and deliberately don't biodegrade. And then on the other side of the shop, there's the minimum use plastic. So yeah, I mean, things like this, that I think it does work in a certain sense, but yeah, it can confuse.
It's quite nice walking through though, or if you're coming to one shop that it's something completely different, sort of catches your attention, and I don't know, yeah, weirdly complementary in an opposite kind of way.
Bizarrely symbiotic, it's quite good. But it's also encouraged me, I think, to reuse a lot of kind of old frames and things like this, because sometimes I have a huge stock of secondhand frames that might be a bit chipped or damaged, and sometimes I can repaint them or find something that will fit somebody's artwork, and that's really nice as well, because that fits in quite well with the kind of minimal, minimal waste ethos, which we should all be looking at.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice that it's kind of rubbed off on you.
Well, I wasn't a terror before, but I mean, yeah.
And you make the new frames you make yourself, don't you? Actually,
Yeah.
upstairs, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I've got a bit of a shared. Yeah, it's an odd situation, but I managed to work from a small studio upstairs, which is great because I don't have to move people's artwork around very much at all. I can't use the public space to do the framing in because it's lots of bits of glass and 3-meter lengths of frame molding that would be poking people in the eye and all the rest of it. So it's nice to have that separation, but not have it so far away.
I've actually got a couple of your frames here, so I'm very biased, obviously, because you've basically framed pretty much every picture in my flat. But I thought I would just show people a couple of them, because what I've always loved about coming to you for framing is that you suggest several different things, and you give me the space to figure out which one I like. And so I think I've got something like 10 pictures that you've framed for me, and they are nearly all completely different. And even ones by the same artist just needed different things. And we kept going until we found the ones where I just went, oh yes, that one, definitely.
It's definitely worth taking the time to make the right choice. And not quite often, but I do send people away sometimes and kind of think, we're not capable of making a good decision right now, so maybe go away, think about it, and come back. And I'll look on my side as well and try and get some more samples that might fit. It's important, because when it's framed, it's nice if it stays framed and not not have to redo things.
And because you're making them yourself and kind of helping people choose what they want for it, it's a very, very personal thing. So you obviously want the results to be something that people want to look at for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it's really nice. It's quite funny when couples come into the shop, or someone's trying to make something as a surprise present for a friend or as a gift, and each frame's got its own little story. It's quite nice. Yeah.
I'm gonna just show you guys a couple of the frames, but first I'd just like to say hello to Samantha, Rona, Emma, Joe, and George, who have joined us on on Facebook. If you've got any questions for Dylan, please do send them along. And also hi to Barbara, who Dylan knows very well, is a very good friend of mine, has also had quite a lot of things framed by him very successfully, and in fact I think was the person who encouraged me to come to you to get my things framed. Okay. So I'm going to show you this. This was from a project basically of my dad's that he edited and reconstructed. He is still finishing off editing and reconstructing the entire works of Martin Pearson. And there was a great big premiere of some of it with Eve Fagellini and Fretwork. And some of you may know those names because they're pretty well known in the early music world. And we had an artist come and make some pictures as he went along. So that's one of them with the beautiful, and this was an interesting one because you chose a colour that I would never have thought. And it really brought out something different in the pictures.
It's quite hard to tell which colour it is, but it's, if I remember correctly, quite a charcoaly grey.
It is, yeah.
Or the grain of the wood, I think.
Yeah, and you can't really see. It's not terribly successful, is it, from that point of view? I'll move on to the other one because that might be slightly more visible. So this one is a picture that I bought in Pensacola, where I was a year and a half ago for my brother's wedding, and I just found this picture in a local art gallery, and I loved it. Something about the crab space that's just I don't know, very, very entertaining. It's just a lovely picture, and I love this frame. Sort of, got a driftwoody feel to it, which I think was why you picked it in the first place, or why you suggested it.
Yeah, well, the colours are so complementary, the tones as well. It just kind of cried out for it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'll give you one more look at that, and I'll put it away. Brilliant. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions for Dylan or comments or anything like that, please do send them across on Facebook. The framing and the pictures is only a part of what you do. You're actually an artist yourself. So
Yeah,
tell us a bit about
that. Okay, I mean, for many years, I've painted what started off as very friendly graffiti and progressed into huge murals that I would paint for primary schools, basically. Oh. And I started getting a lot of input from the kids in the schools and getting them to draw pictures, and then I'd redraw the pictures with them and then turn them into kind of these great sprawling landscapes of kind of musical cities and kind of bizarre creatures surrounding football pitches, or really uplifting what could often be, what in London at least, old Victorian schools with perimeter walls that would have these kind of brick kind of enclosures for kids to run around in. You just kind of think, okay, bricks can be beautiful, but it's also very nice to be able to uplift the feeling of kids' playtime, basically. I've got two little girls myself now, Zofia and Ida, and they're 5 and 6. And when I've been working, they've come into the school playgrounds where I've been working. They've kind of seen these huge paintings. They kind of think it's quite bewildering. You know, that there's door handles on castles and kids are always trying to open them. It becomes quite interactive. It's quite nice. And for many years I had several murals in the car park at the top of Bedwardine Road where the Hainsley Market sets up. That's kind of changed several times in the last year or so, and other people are painting it as well. But it's, I don't know, it must be for about 10 or 12 years I had paintings in that spot. So I think kids have kind of grown up in the area recognizing these creatures and these animals and things. So it's hopefully I've brought a bit of array of positivity and sunshine to a lot of families around here. And sometimes people do mention it still. You taught my daughter all the colors and things like this, because we walked past it so many times and we were doing the colors in different languages and things like that. It's really, really, I don't know, uplifting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did see, I think at some point in the last year or so, you posted a video of a school playground mural that you'd done, and just kind of it went literally all the way around the school, and sort of with quite complex, not just the playground, but kind of round the side and stuff as well. And it was hugely inventive and complex, and just there's lucky kids. I wish I'd had that.
I mean, I can remember, I think it was when I was at Rosendale Road Primary School, someone painted a mural on some of the concrete kind of fences, and it just from the grey to coming back after the holiday and seeing this, it was a space rocket and some stars. It's just brilliant. It's really nice to kind of think about something that happened in your own experience and then try to put that into your life and you know, give that back in a way. But yeah, I mean, I've got a website which is dylandoodleman.com, and there are some examples of work on there, and hopefully you can check, and I hope you like what you see. Bring a bit of positivity into the lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been joined by Nicola, Martin, Herb and Jules. So welcome, you guys. If you have any questions, please send them across. Questions or comments for Dylan, send them across and we'll try and answer them now as we go along. So Dylan, you actually have had a lot of different kind of jobs and connections to Crystal Palace over the years, haven't you? So, and some of them are quite exciting. So tell us a bit about those.
my first job in Crystal Palace was in the Upper Nord Library, Upper Nord Library as it was at the time. I got a Saturday job there when I was 16 and worked there. Well, it was coming up to 10 years, and I decided to hand in my notice because I felt I was far too young to have done anything for 10 years. And then simultaneously to that, I worked with John Dickinson, who builds amplifiers and is a guitar repairer at Antenna Studios. But we made skateboards together and longboards, and did silly downhill races together and things like that, which was great fun.
A longboard is?
A longboard it's like a skateboard, but much longer with kind of gooier wheels, as it were. So you can go over more bumps and get to much higher speeds. And it's a bit more like surfing or snowboarding, rather than having a smaller board that you're on a ramp with or flipping it and doing tricks. So yeah, we had the skate shop called the Doghouse that was there at Antenna Studios. And John's still there repairing guitars and doing his amplifiers. That, I mean, brilliant stuff. Like, I think Muse used them on stage. Wow. So hopefully we'll get to go to concerts again.
Yeah.
And see some live music around the palace as well as around the world. That will be really really nice. So let's stay positive. And I mean, other jobs, I worked for with Rook's Books for a while, which is down Cooper's Yard, and Gavin is quite a legendary character around Crystal Palace, I'd say, and his fantastic leather-clad car called Miss Hep. So doing leather restoration and generally helping out the workshops there. But other jobs in Crystal Palace, I'm trying to think.
Well, you mentioned also that you like collecting historical items with a connection to Crystal Palace, I think?
Yeah. I do have a penchant for collecting Crystal Palace memorabilia, as it were. I wouldn't say it's an obsession, but I just find it fascinating that there's so much history in Crystal Palace that's basically been, but not necessarily forgotten about, but has been. Well, the palace isn't there anymore, and it used to contain all the wonders of the world, and now it's basically some stone steps with some sphinxes. And I mean, it's great, but it is like a ghost. It's like ghost culture. So to be able to kind of pick some of these things up, I've got a couple of things to look. This is Victorian technology. This is a stereoscope, the viewer and the cards. So they take a photo, like this is of the crystal fountain inside the palace when it was there. So they take a photo with a camera that had two lenses, slightly kind of, that far apart, mimicking the eyes. And so each photo will be slightly different. And then when you put the card in the viewer, each eye is kind of fooled into seeing each picture individually.
It's 3D, isn't it?
It becomes 3D because it's tricking your brain, because each eye can't see both pictures anymore. So your brain's thinking it's only seeing the same picture, but they're different. So it kind of overlays it. And Queen Victoria was blown away by this invention, and it became like a real parlor thing to do for Victorian households. And you could travel around the world with your stereoscope and buy cards of, different, people's journeys and the war and things like this, and see it all in, this kind of mock 3D that just blows my mind. So that's a great example of a fun Crystal Palace.
Amazing.
Got something else here as well, which is very cool. It's tiny. It's a book, the Crystal Palace Guide, basically, and it's like a visitor's guide to Crystal Palace and the area, and how to. I mean, it's full of maps and things, but how to arrive here by train. It's got all the train times. It's got how much it costs for in the canteen in the Crystal Palace, you could have a bottle of sherry for 5 shillings.
Oh wow!
That sounds good. I mean, and it's just full of kind of engravings, and I'm not sure really. I mean, it's tiny, but it's got a kind of a walk around tour of all the different the courts that were in the palace at the time, and kind of examples of the tiles and the. It's just it's gorgeous. So you can kind of travel around the site, the entrance to the palace. It's, if anyone would like to come and look at it, I mean, obviously when we're allowed to see people again, I'll have it in the market, and you're welcome to come and have a look. I think reprints do exist, but this is from 1854, which is, I mean, I've always loved books, and you know, I tell the kids books are treasures because I really believe that, and it's just an example of a little book being a treasure. And it's very topical to Palace, obviously.
Yeah. We're sort of nearly out of time, but actually I just wanted to come back to, you mentioned your kids, and I just wanted to come back to kind of how you're entertaining them during lockdown, because I imagine it's a bit of a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky because my wife's here as well. She's a seamstress. She has an Instagram account called Sewing Blighter, and is making kind of little dolls maquettes and dolls clothes and things with the kids. I'm doing lots of drawing with them. We're trying to do some work and some dictations, trying to turn maths into fun. We've been playing 21 loads.
That is
Vegas, here we come. And we've started planting a little bit. There's a communal garden here on our estate, and there was a small patch that was just covered in stinging nettles. So it took 2 weeks to get rid of the nettles and put up all the roots. And we've left some of them because my mum insists that stinging nettles are really good in smoothies and they're good for butterflies. So there are some still there. But we've started, digging up the earth, planting things.
You're planting vegetables, I think you said.
Yeah, mainly veg, and I mean, we've got some Jerusalem artichoke that comes from someone just around the corner on South Vale. I mean, I'd just quickly like to say, I think that this weird and quite terrible situation has started to bring quite a lot of good things about, with community and people communicating more with each other, and more neighbours that you've never known before kind of offering help, or I don't know, that there are some silver linings, I think, that we should look at and hopefully continue them on no matter what happens.
You need to build on.
And so thank you to everyone who's making an effort. I'll just show you one tiny thing as well. I walked past another person's house, and they've been drawing lucky frogs and lucky owls. And this is from Lydia Croft Art, and it was just really, really wonderful to pick up a little lucky token.
Amazing.
So thank you to everyone who's making an effort and doing their best.
Brilliant. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm just going to say hi to Stephen, Ian and Noreen. Thank you very much for joining us. Just kind of coming to the end. So Dylan, can you tell us how to contact you? So you've got the 2 different sets of businesses going on. You've got the artwork and the murals and stuff, and also the framing. So people contact you.
I mean, with the framing, the kind of, I haven't got a website, but I've got an Instagram account, which is Images Del Mar, and the email is imagesdelmar@gmail.com. I tried to keep it as straightforward as possible. And then Dylan Doodleman, it's exactly the same. There's the website, www.dylandoodleman.com, or by email, dylandoodleman@gmail.com. But
lots of pictures and videos and stuff on both those, aren't there, if people want to?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, any questions as well, feel free. Got a little bit of time on my hands. One of the picture framing suppliers has actually just reopened after some weeks of being closed, so that's encouraging. I can kind of get back to business, hopefully.
Brilliant.
Here's a creature. This is Ida.
Hiya.
You want to say hi? Okay. And I think Zofia's in her room, is she? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks to everyone doing good stuff. Thanks to the teachers and NHS and the police and the fire brigade and everything, and
the shopkeepers who are
and
making
the
food.
yeah,
yeah,
and everyone.
And thank you very much for coming and chatting to us. I've got a couple of things to say just about the live streaming program.
Okay.
So, hiya.
Okay. Good.
So just a couple of updates, well, not updates, as you guys probably know if you're watching, we have quite a big and constantly changing live streaming program. We're trying to do what we can to keep everybody entertained and connected. So please do check it out. We've got everything from kind of kid stories in the morning to mindfulness, yoga, singing, talkie-okie, chat show, which anybody can just come along and have their say. We've got live music. We've basically got everything we can think of. If you've got any ideas for stuff you'd like, get in touch. We've also got Clear Community Web. So for anybody who is needing tech help, so right now, especially valuable if you want to help getting onto video calls and stuff so you can actually see your family and so on. Particularly for elderly and vulnerable people, please get in touch with Clear Community Web. We've also got the ESOL English for as a second language classes, which are still running. So please, if you are interested in that, if you know somebody who would benefit from it, please get in touch. Obviously, it's good for the Library Hub to have people using the service as much as possible during lockdown and spreading the word. So please do that. And finally, just to say, if we're always looking for more people to come on the show and talk to us. We're particularly interested in things that have a local connection, people's personal stories or businesses stories, things like that, and positive things that are going to keep everybody connected and feeling hopeful about the future and things. So if you are interested in being on the show or you know somebody who'd be good for it, we would love to hear from you. And that's all from us today, and we'll see you on Monday for the next Library Live Lunch. Thanks very much, Dylan. And see you soon.
See you. Bye.